My name is Jacopo Scita and I am Sheikh Nasser Al-Sabah Doctoral Fellow at Durham University. Today I will talk about the China-Iran Comprehensive Strategic Partnership Agreement that has recently been signed by the two countries. The deal elevates the relations between China and Iran to the level of a comprehensive strategic partnership, which is the highest in Beijing partnership diplomacy in the Middle East. It also concludes the negotiation that began in January 2016 when Xi Jinping visited Iran. The negotiations have been revived in 2018 and finally concluded in late March 2021 during Wang Yi, the Chinese foreign minister visit to the Middle East and its stop in Tehran. It's important to know that the agreement, the deal, is not a binding agreement nor a contract between the two countries. In fact, as both Chinese and Iranian authorities have clarified, this is a roadmap for expanding cooperation between China and Iran in the next 25 years. What does this mean? Well, this means that the agreement does not have the financial, technical, implementational provisions that are typical of binding contracts, which result in the fact that China and Iran will still have to negotiate and approve and sign all the projects that are mentioned in the agreement and that will constitute the expansion in their bilateral ties. Also, we do not still have the final version of the agreement that has been signed during Wang Yi visit to Tehran. So every comment we can make on it is based on a leaked version of a draft document that has been confirmed real by the Iranian Foreign Minister Javad Zarif, and that came out last summer. From that document, we can see that the two countries have the will to expand in a comprehensive manner their partnership, their relations. This means that the document mentioned an expansion in the cooperation in oil trade, in the cooperation in the people-to-people exchange, but also it mentioned more sensitive or strategic sectors such as, for example, the military and defense industry or cybersecurity, anti-terrorism, and mutual security needs. Well, the deal shows that both countries have an interest in increasing their mutual cooperation and that Iran has a place in China's Persian Gulf strategy, but also it shows that Iran has a legitimate interest in cooperating with China and not being left out from China's increasing footprint in the region and investments in its neighboring countries. At the same time, in the more short term, I would say, this deal gives Iran a brief of fresh political air, and especially sends the message that Iran has been able to overcome the US attempt, especially under Trump, to isolate the country through maximum pressure. So there's an important political message here. In the more long term, again, I would say that Iranians are legitimately concerned about not being left out from China's Belt and Road Initiative projects, from China increasing Look West policy. On the Chinese side, I would say that this deal, along with the good relationship that China and Iran historically had, gives to Beijing a slightly more leverage to push Iran to the negotiation table of the JCPOA. We should know that China has a clear interest in having Iran back to the negotiation table and in revive the JCPOA. So arguably, this deal gives more footing to China to push Iran back to the negotiation table. What this deal is not is a $400 billion agreement. This is a fairly implausible figure that has been circulating around since 2019, but has been denied by Iranian and Chinese authorities, is not present in the fact sheet we have seen. So it's very hard, frankly, to imagine that China will invest $400 billion in Iran in the next 25 years. Also, in my opinion, this is not a breakthrough in the path of China-Iran relations. It's worth remembering that this year, 2021, the two countries celebrate 50 years from the establishment of diplomatic relations. And in these 50 years, the relationship between the two countries has been pretty consistent. Although by consistent, I mean that has been made by big announcements, time of spectacular cooperation, but also backlashes and very disappointing moments, especially for Iranians. So this agreement does not seem a breakthrough, but it seems coherent with the path of the last 50 years. Also, my understanding is that any substantial improvement in the quality and in the quantity, but especially in the quality of the relationship between the two countries is strictly related to the removal of secondary sanctions. This is because they have represented a huge limit in China's expansion in Iran, in China's ability to increase the quality of its relationship with Iran. So my understanding, again, is that it's hard to imagine this deal resulting in a breakthrough, in an increase in the quality and quantity of the trade and more broadly the relationship between the two countries with secondary sanctions in place. Well, I don't see this deal changing the balance of power in the Persian Gulf. First of all, because despite this deal, Iran is not special for China. And by not special, I mean that China has the same level of relationship, so has comprehensive strategic partnership with both UAE and Saudi Arabia. And especially if we look at what happened with the UAE, when the partnership was launched in 2018, it only took 3 years to make these two countries steeply increasing their mutual investments, their trade, to have, for example, China agreeing in let the UAE producing the Sinopharm COVID-19 vaccine. And so this definitely shows that compared to the 5 years that took China-Iran to merely sign this comprehensive strategic partnership, this means that the road is very long and the balance of power is not going to change. Also because if we look at what is China's strategy in the Persian Gulf, on what it is based, we see that there are two fundamental elements. One is that China has been balancing between Iran and Saudi Arabia, so between the two giants of the region, but also that China's strategy is based on finding and establishing deeper relationship with the states that are considered pivotal in the region, the pivot of the region. And these states, once again, are Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Iran. So Iran is part, and this deal is part of China's Persian Gulf strategy. It's not making Iran special somehow. Finally, I would say that if you look at the political message that are behind this deal, well, my understanding is that they are more bilateral. So Iran is showing that he has on its side a great power that is the second largest economy in the world, China, but also international, global somehow, in a sense that the main messages are directed to the United States, to Europeans, if we think especially in the context of going back to the JCPOA table and the negotiation. But the message that Iran wants to send, and also the message that China wants to send, is definitely not regional. We don't see Iran flexing its muscle towards its regional rivals after this deal. We are seeing it flexing its muscle vis-a-vis the United States and partly the Europeans. Please follow Gulf State Analytics on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and go to www.gulfstateanalytics.com.